Hello, and welcome to Life Science New York's Spotlight Conversation series. I'm Win Thurlow, Executive Director of Life Sciences New York, and today we're going to deviate from our regular format because I'm thrilled to be joined today by Dr. Sarah Matt, MD, MBA, author of the upcoming book, The Borderless Healthcare Revolution. And perhaps most excitingly for us here at Life Sciences New York, Dr. Matt will be our dinner speaker at the annual Members Dinner and Awards ceremony to be held in Syracuse this year on Wednesday, November 12th. We will include a link to the registration page in the chat on this conversation, along with a link to Dr. Matt's website, so that you can connect with her and learn more about the upcoming annual conference and award ceremony. Sarah, Matt, thank you so much for joining us. It's a pleasure to have you here today.
Thank you, Wynn. Very excited to be here with your audience.
So, Sarah, let's start here. I'd love you to be able to give us a bit of your background and what led you on your professional journey and led you to write the book that will be coming out in just about a couple of months.
Thank you. So, first of all, I'm a New York State person, born and raised here in Central New York, went to Cornell. I'm wearing my t-shirt right now because you know what? The best way to interview. And the second thing is I went to upstate for med school. Um, I'm a surgeon by training, my fellowship's in burns. But I really realized during my fellowship, which was mostly research and publication, that I had other skills and that I felt rather confined at the bedside. As a surgeon, you can only really take care of maybe 20 people in a day. You get past that and it gets a little grumpy. So when I was thinking about how I could really make the most impact, I was trying to consider how I could really scale myself. And I realized that probably wasn't at the bedside for me, but how could I do that? So went back to UT Austin for my MBA and made that transition into the tech sector. So my whole career has really been about med device, digital transformation and technology, about cloud, platform, you name it. So I've been on the technical side, the business and technology side of healthcare and life sciences. So I've been at lots of different places. I've done several startups, had some fun exits. I was at Oracle for a long time, building out their OCI business for platform infrastructure around the world for healthcare and life sciences. And then I got to be a big part of the acquisition of Cerner, which was a very interesting, exciting time. And then once you've reached a scale of that magnitude, what do you do next? I went back to startups. So my last startup, I was chief strategy officer at a place doing remote robotic surgery back into the device space, which was really exciting and interesting. And then I decided, you know what? It's time to take this message of healthcare access and a borderless healthcare thought process and bring it to the world. So I'm really focused on that right now.
So let's drill down a bit into let's do some definition of terms. Your book is called The Borderless Healthcare Revolution, and really you talk quite eloquently about various types of barriers, or I suppose borders, that prove to be impediments to the delivery of healthcare across populations. Help us understand when you talk about a borderless healthcare revolution, what are you thinking of?
So I think the obvious thing that people think of mostly are borders between nations or states or continents. And geography absolutely plays a role in it. But there's also other kinds of barriers: digital, trust and knowledge, cultural. There's all these different pieces, financial, that are actually some of the reasons we can't get our latest and greatest devices, technologies, therapeutics into the hands of people that need it most. Um, I know it may sound a bit controversial, but the technology is often the easiest part. We'll continue to drive tech and AI algorithms and therapeutic design again and again and again. And it's going to far outpace our ability to adopt it and bring it to the masses. And oftentimes, if you aren't thinking about how you're going to properly commercialize your product or service, and that means breaking down some of these barriers, then real people aren't going to have access to them. And that's going to be detrimental for a company in life sciences here in New York, as well as a healthcare system here in New York.
And in terms of breaking down barriers, tell us a bit more about your approach or your recommended approach to both identifying and overcoming the barriers that you talk about.
So I really focus on what I call the five pillars of access. And as I mentioned before, financial, geographic, cultural, trust and knowledge, and digital. I think it's important for everyone to think about how they're impacting the healthcare and life sciences spaces and which of those barriers they're already addressing. Great. You're already addressing digital literacy. You're already trying to build that trust with your customers, clients, patients, you name it. But I think that oftentimes where we get stuck is not looking at the other areas, those other pillars of access. Because if we look in those areas, those are probably where we're feeling the most friction, the most difficulty in implementing our solutions, the most difficulty in distributing them. And so to me, it's a full audit. How are you as a company, as a product or service, as a leader addressing these different aspects of access in order to get your business to bring its solutions and problem solutions to customers, clients, and patients. But if you don't look at all of them, you're probably going to keep getting stuck in the same places.
So we often spend time talking with innovators, with entrepreneurs about the particular challenge of, I guess, what to borrow a phrase, the known unknowns and the unknown unknowns. And it often feels, at least to me, to be a bit of a daunting prospect to do the type of audit or scan that you're talking about, right? We're all limited by our own imagination. Um, Talk a bit about how one can expand one's point of reference to be able to better identify some of those barriers that you may not be thinking about.
So I do a lot of startup advisory in biotech and in healthcare. And what I see, especially for first-time founders, is again, they have a hard time looking outside the box. When I see serial entrepreneurs, some of the seasoning that they've gone through, I think really helps. And here's what I see with them. They ask tough questions from the beginning. They want to make sure they have answers for their investors, and they try to produce diverse teams of individuals that have different kinds of opinions. Sometimes the hardest founders to work with are technology experts or SMEs in a specific area because they're amazing at the therapeutic. They're amazing at the molecular genetics. They're amazing at that specific kind of technology. However, maybe they've never run a business before. So oftentimes they're thinking about making the most elegant solution, but it may not be something that they can actually commercialize, that they can actually distribute, that they can actually bring into the market. And so by having advisors as well as having different individuals within your organization that are not coming from the same pedigree. If everyone in your lab is coming from Stanford, sounds great until you realize everyone is thinking the same way because they come from the same handful of labs. So something to think about is how can I bring those diverse opinions and thoughts into my organization, into my business, and figure out how to use those as superpowers and get us moving faster, better, cheaper, you name it, because we're thinking in different ways.
We recently convened a statewide summit on the applications of AI in the healthcare space, and a number of speakers really spoke eloquently about using artificial intelligence as a tool to enhance both current practice models, but also find ways to better communicate across platforms and across audiences. And I'm wondering if you could tell us a little bit from your experience on how you see AI or technology generally as a useful tool in this process of breaking through barriers.
So, as we all know, there's a balanced approach to AI, pros and cons all over the place. And I'm sure you discussed those a lot during that summit. But if we focus on the positives, we're at an amazing time in science where ultimately folks we know got their PhDs a long time ago, and it took them 6, 7, 10 years to get it done. Now that same work can be done in a weekend, which is pretty crazy. And so when I think about how AI can improve our ability to discover, improve our ability to consider ideas that we wouldn't have thought of before, we're at an amazing time. Where I think that we ultimately need to kind of bring that one step further, as you mentioned, is in communication. So, one of the biggest barriers is around trust and knowledge. We saw this all throughout the COVID-19 pandemic. There's so much disinformation, misinformation, there's all these different pieces. Who's trustworthy, who's not? And so, as a company, as an entrepreneur, how do you build trust around your solution and your organization so that not only can you gain customers and clients, but you can have public health trust what you're doing. You can have patients trust what you're doing. You can have folks sign up for your clinical trial because they trust your organization. And so I think AI can assist us in ways to communicate things better. When you and I came from different backgrounds, and so there may be times where the words I'm using are slightly different than the words you're using. But if I can translate my thought process to you in a way that hits you in the best possible way so you understand, that's a win. And I think that AI has the way for us to think about how I can hit Gen Z and Gen Alpha with the best possible information that they will find trustworthy. How can I hit boomers today and figure out how I can help them understand this therapeutic or this chronic disease state in a better fashion? But we all come from different places. And here on this call, we're all in biotech. We are all in this interesting landscape. And a lot of the people that we work with every day are not. And so when you're talking to marketing agencies, when you're talking to VCs or to other investors, their lexicon might be different than yours. How can you speak to them best and message to the best of your ability? I think that's a great way for AI to help us.
And drawing on your experience as a serial entrepreneur, engaged in startups, um, what would you say is the most common obstacle that folks in your space have to deal with? And do you have any advice on how to either recognize and or mitigate some of those challenges?
I think there's two pieces that people tend to make mistakes about all the time. First is reimbursement, and the second one is leadership. So, on the reimbursement front, I think oftentimes we build a solution and then we figure out how we might get it paid for. But when you think about your ability to commercialize anything, your ability to get paid via reimbursement is absolutely vital. So don't think of commercialization as a step two or a step three. It should be part of your business case at the beginning. It should be something you're considering as you're building your initial prototypes. Because if you can consider a CPT code that counts for that, or X, Y, or Z, how can I get this reimbursed within a normal, already established fashion? Or do we need to do this in a new way? That early thought process is going to help you go in the right direction. It's going to give your investors a lot more appreciation for the work you're doing and the thought you're bringing behind it. And it's also going to get you on the path to success a ton earlier. The second is around leadership. I mentioned before that sometimes we have the best experts in AI, therapeutics, et cetera, building an amazing solution. But you know what? They might not be the best leader for a business. And so thinking about who your executive team is going to be, and as a founder, recognizing where your superpowers are is really important. I know for me, I love being a founding member of an organization, but I don't like to be the founder. It's not where I get the most energy and where I like to be. You want to scale something? Call me up. Absolutely. I love that. But I think that especially for first time folks in startups and for first time founders, they may not know where their secret sauce is. And so oftentimes there'll be friction where the founder really needs to take their position and hand it off to a new CEO. They can still be on the board, they can still be a co-founder, but they haven't kind of gotten to that ego thought process of my business is going to go better if I allow someone else to run it and I can do the stuff I'm great at.
And Sarah, in the few minutes we've got remaining, I'm hoping that perhaps you can put on your crystal ball reading abilities. You talk about healthcare as a revolution. Where do you see the revolution heading? And I suppose in all revolutions there are winners and losers. What's your thought about who will emerge from this healthcare revolution in the best position to lead into the future?
So right now we're in a bit of a crazy spot. All over the world, healthcare and life sciences has become very polarized. It's become weaponized in some places. And so ultimately, that's actually at the expense of business builders and patients, providers, you name it. I think the revolution is for us all to come together on aspects where we can all agree. And I think healthcare access is something where every single person listening to this podcast has a terrible access story for them, their children, their family, their friends. And so I feel like access is a nonpartisan way, a non-polarizing way for us to come together on one aspect of healthcare and life sciences that will move us all together forward. And the winners are going to be all of us, because if we allow more patients to get the care they need via therapeutics, via new delivery models, you name it, the builders win. If we get better access for patients, patients will win too. So I really think this is a way for us to all win together. But again, that's a revolutionary thought process too.
Well, Sarah Matt, thank you for joining us today. Unfortunately, these conversations tend to end far sooner than I'd like. The good news, however, is that for those of you watching today and are interested in connecting with Dr. Matt and hearing her speak, again, our annual conference and honor ceremony and dinner will be held on November 12th and 13th in Syracuse. We've got a terrific lineup, including Sarah and some other terrific speakers. This year's focus is on driving innovation and advancement in the product space. And so I encourage you to join us. Again, you can find a link either on our website at Life Sciences New York, but also here at the chat. Again, a chance to connect with Dr. Matt on Wednesday, November 12th. Please join us. In the meantime, Sarah Matt, thank you for spending some time with us today. This has been a terrific teaser conversation.
Thank you. And I'm looking forward to speaking to so many of you at the conference.
Terrific. Thanks.